Thank you, Mr. Chairman. President Biden and congressional Democrats continue their attack on traditional energy with proposed tax hikes that would kill jobs, raise fuel prices, and leave America more dependent on foreign oil. The administration's proposed oil and natural gas tax hikes are harmful to our economy. The oil and natural gas industry accounts for 10.3 million jobs and is nearly 8% of our nation's GDP. This amendment shows it is the sense of Congress that we disapprove of this administration's proposed harmful tax hikes on the oil and gas industry. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle seem to be simultaneously concerned about high prices at the pump while aggressively pursuing an agenda designed to entirely phase out oil and gas from domestic energy production. The audio simply doesn't match the video. Uncertainty surrounding energy policy decisions in D.C. is causing oil and natural gas producers to make decisions based on unfavorable policies that haven't passed yet. Repealing the immediate deduction of intangible drilling costs would cost 265,000 jobs. For every job lost in the oil and gas sector by repealing IDCs, 2.5 times as many indirect jobs are lost. The percentage depletion deduction is the small business deduction for the smaller producers of oil and gas. Eliminating percentage depletion would force many family-owned small businesses to lay off employees or worse, shut down operations altogether. I'm proud to support H.R. 1 to restore American energy independence, and I urge all of my colleagues to disapprove of President Biden's tax hikes on the oil and gas industry by supporting this amendment. I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. What purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I rise to claim time in opposition to the amendment.
Gentleman has 5 minutes.
Frankly, I could not disagree more with this amendment. It claims that President Biden's budget would repeal tax breaks that are, quote, vital to the oil and natural gas industry of the United States. But this is the same big oil that last year saw just 6 companies make a shocking $200 billion in profit, and then spend billions to enrich their shareholders with stock buybacks and dividends, all while gouging American drivers at the pump. So I hope the gentleman will forgive me if I don't think the big oil needs a tax break. But, Mr. Chairman, I am glad the gentleman offered this amendment because I think it's very illustrative of how Democrats and Republicans are in different places. Democrats and President Biden are fighting every day to keep American Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid safe. Republicans, however, apparently only value the tax breaks that their big oil friends have. Just yesterday, Speaker McCarthy sent President Biden a letter on the national debt. But I guess cutting tax breaks for fossil fuels is a real red line for Republicans. They'd rather us default than impact their special interests. So it's fitting that this amendment is being added to the Polluters Over People Act. For all my colleagues here today, it's very simple. If you're on the side of the polluters, support this amendment. If you're on the side of the people, you must oppose it. And I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserved. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
I'd like to recognize the Congressman Kelly Armstrong for 2 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of this amendment. This amendment expresses disapproval of the proposed tax hikes on the oil and gas industry in President Biden's 2024 budget. It is estimated that the president's budget would result in $31 billion tax hike on the industry. This is another move by the administration to harm the domestic oil and gas industry and undercut their global competitiveness despite asking them to produce more. The independent oil and gas producers develop 91% of the wells in the United States, producing 83% of America's oil and 90% of its natural gas. And I think it's important to note that integrated companies don't get 100% of the tax break. Only non-integrated companies, the small oil and gas producers that exist in western North Dakota, eastern Montana, Kansas, and Oklahoma, and who produce the majority of America's oil. These are the producers that the Biden administration wants to raise taxes on. The Biden budget proposal also calls out these producers for failing to invest in production. Meanwhile, this administration is doing everything to tax and regulate the industry out of existence. I urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Gentleman reserved.
The gentleman, I'll yield my time back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from New Jersey.